What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Creative Hunter podcast, and this is your host, as always, Logan Romney, and I'm joined today with my wife, Ellie. Ellie, how's it going?
Pretty good. Doing well today.
Good. So, Ellie and I just got back a couple of days ago from her first hunt, her first big game hunt.
Yeah.
And pretty exciting, so we're going to get into that today. We're also going to talk about kind of some new stuff we have coming up for the channel and for the brand, the Creative Hunter. Some new products that we're going to be releasing probably this week. But first of all, let's talk about Ellie's hunt. So Ellie is from Arizona, and her family never hunted a ton when she was younger. They love it, and I'm actually going on a hunt with her brother and her dad next week. But Ellie never had like an elk tag or a deer tag.
Never got drawn.
Yeah.
In Arizona.
Some of this, if you guys have been watching, Ellie did get a turkey this spring, and that was pretty exciting for her. That was kind of her first thing she ever hunted.
Yeah.
But she drew an elk tag in Idaho in a good unit that I've hunted a lot before, so I kind of knew the area. I actually killed a bull there when I was in high school, so really good spot. I looked on like Go Hunt and kind of looked at some of the draw odds and stuff, and for a resident in Idaho, it's a 20% chance to draw this tag. So it's not like amazing, but it's also not the worst odds. And I usually put in for every year, and I haven't drawn it since I was in high school, but Ellie drew it her first time.
Well,
So
pretty exciting.
kind of seems like it's how it goes sometimes, is if it's your first time or whatever, you tend to draw more stuff, but pretty cool. So Ellie drew that tag, and it's in a similar unit to where I deer hunt. So I was out there quite a bit scouting before the season, and Ellie's hunt started October 15th, so it's a little bit like after the rut, but the elk are still going to be rutting a little bit. And we found the elk, like they were still herded up pretty good, but a lot of the really big bulls that I was seeing, like we didn't see a ton of like really big bulls, but I mean we kind of saw. Thinking back on it, we saw like the same size bulls as I was seeing the whole time, really. So, there was one really big bull that I had heard about and seen pictures of, but we never found him. So coming into the hunt, I already had like scouted. I kind of knew where the elk were going to be at, what areas I wanted to go to, and everywhere we went, we found elk.
Yeah,
which was pretty nice. So day one, I kind of already knew where I wanted to go to find some elk. So we went down the trail and got up on top of this hill. Found like a small raghorn with some cows right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
But they spooked over the hill, but we weren't going after them anyways because that thing was tiny. And then we did find, we heard a bugle, which is super rare this time of year because we only, I think I heard like 2 bugles the whole time.
Yeah.
And we got down and we found this herd of elk, and as close as we could get was about 850 yards, and there was a decent 6-point.
Mm-hmm.
And we got the gun up. The gun that we're shooting on this trip, and I'm going to be using this the rest of the season, it's brand new. It's a Weatherby 307, 7 PRC. I love it. It's super nice. It's pretty lightweight, and I've got a good scope on it. And I was out shooting a bunch with it, but I only got it like 2 days before the hunt started. So I went out and I was shot, and the farthest I kind of shot was around 400 yards, but it was like shooting perfect. So I thought that we'd do pretty good. But we got set up at 850 on these elk, took a few shots, and the gun was like, it was off, but it was consistently off. Mm-hmm. So it was like high and left every time. Yeah. And they just got away, and so we had to make some changes to the rifle, and I kind of got it ready to go, and then after that I was like, all right, we're not going to shoot anything farther than like 500-600 yards if we have to. Yeah. And so that's kind of our game plan for the rest of the trip, just because until we can get that gun shooting further at some targets, it's not really worth shooting at an animal with it. How'd you feel kind of after that?
After shooting it, or shooting at it, or
Yeah, like after we like put in all the work, it's your first time, and then
and I
like you
missed
miss this bull.
Oh man, it was tough because I'd been looking forward to it for so long, and Logan and I both went and shot the gun, and it was shooting really well, and just, man, I was so excited. We had gotten up to the top of the hill, heard the bugle, went down a little further, and we saw them, and I was so excited to, it was opening day. I was like, great, yeah, I'm gonna film my tag today. But then I missed, and it was kind of the worst. I'm glad that it wasn't anything bad, because that would have been so much worse. But yeah, it was just a bit disappointing, and
So we saw kind of where these elk went, and we bombed over there just to see kind of what was going on. We have some other buddies that were up here that had the tag. So my dad's buddy and his son, his son had a tag, so they had some horses up there, and then a couple of their buddies had tags too, so they were up there running around. And as we got over there and we were kind of looking for those elk again, I got a phone call from my buddy with the horses, and he said, "Hey, my son got bucked off and his foot got stuck in the stirrup. He got drugged like 20 or 30 yards, and I'm calling Lifeline right now." So, and we were like half mile away from them, maybe. So we weren't that far away from where they were at.
Yeah.
So it was like, whoa, okay, this is crazy. Like, morning hunt's over. We got to go help these guys out and see if they need anything. So we ran over to where they were at, and the kid, he was totally conscious and totally like he was fine, but he had which we didn't know at the time, but we knew that his leg was really hurt. We didn't know if it was broken or not, but he had a fractured femur, and he got kicked in the back of the head, so one of his vertebrae in his neck was cracked as well. So we were being careful with him because we knew that he might have some neck injuries, and he had his leg that was hurting bad. So they called Lifeline, and that was the first time I've ever been there when Lifeline just came. And I mean, he wasn't gonna die, but we were not getting him out. We were like 2.5 miles back there on horses, and so he was not getting out. But Lifeline came. It was super easy. They were super chill, and we like got him all figured out, got him on the helicopter, and sent him off. And we were kind of counting on those horses to pack something out, but of course, like, it was his son, so he had to take the horses out, and he left for the rest of the hunt. But that was crazy, and the kid's doing just fine now. I mean, I think he's just recovering, which is good. But
it was an eventful first day, though.
It was a crazy first morning.
For sure.
And then the rest of that day, we were down there till like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I was like, well, let's just stay here and hunt. We went up, and we did see some elk. So we went up. We didn't see a single elk like within range until like last light. I spotted a big herd of elk, like
1,500
2
yards.
miles away.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, about 1.5 miles away.
Yeah.
Like 1.5 miles away. And they were big herd, so they were kind of coming off, and it was in a spot where I had seen elk before, and I kind of had been over there scouting a bit too. So I thought I kind of knew what these elk were going to do in the morning. I think they were like fed down out of the pines onto this face. They were going to feed there all night and then come back into the pines the next morning. So day 2, we got up, we hustled over there. It was a bit of more of a hike than the day before. How are you feeling?
That morning was really windy and cold, compared to the day before, because it was just, we had been there the week prior, and it was hot. It was like mid-70s the week we were there before, so it had cooled down a good bit, but it was super windy. So I felt pretty good that morning. My knee was giving me a little bit of grief, but it wasn't anything really to be concerned about. But no, it was good. We got up to the glassing knob before first light, so we were ready to go and
yeah, we got up there. We were looking like right where those elk came over the hill and didn't see anything. Like they weren't there, but we could smell the elk when we were hiking up the ridge. So I was like, they either were here or they're close. But we could see it quite a ways, and I was like, I don't think that they're like right here right now. And then we saw a couple hunters down the ridge from us, but I knew the elk were probably up the ridge, just judging by where they were at. So kind of like a little bit mid-morning, well, still early morning, I guess. Yeah. Sun was up already. I was like, all right, let's pack up and let's like hike up this ridge and see if they're like over the top of this or wherever. See if we can find any elk. Because where we were sitting, there was no elk. Well, we couldn't see a ton, but we could see enough that if there were elk there, we would see them. Yeah. So we packed up, we started going, we got over just like the next ridge, and I spotted elk, like right off the bat. I was like, oh, there they are. Yeah. And I think I'm very confident it was like the same group of elk we saw the night before. They had just kind of wrapped around the face of that and on like in the next little draw. And so we were 550, 600 yards from them at that point, and they were just kind of feeding out of the trees across this open face. So we got into a position, set up the spotter, and watched these elk, see if there was anything worth shooting at. There was a bunch of bulls in this group. There was like probably 5 or 6 bulls, and there was probably 30 cows, 20 or 30 cows. Mm-hmm. And there was one bull that was a 5, barely 6, 5x6, but he was a really big frame bull, and he had like he was just a great like solid bull, especially for a first bull. Yeah. And so he was the one we wanted to shoot. So when we first saw him, he was like out in the open by himself, just feeding, and we had to kind of move to the top of this to a ridge so we could lay down and get an easy shot for Ellie. And by the time we moved up there and we were all set up, the elk had no clue we were there, but it took us a few minutes. Mm-hmm. That bull had worked his way in with the cows. And for the next, it was like literally 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was a long time.
The bull didn't give us a shot. Like there was either cows in front of him or cows behind him the whole time as they fed up this face and over the top into the trees. Yeah. So I was like, dang it. Like, that sucks. Yeah. And, so we sat there all day and just kind of hung out, went in the trees, took some naps, watched a movie, Brother Bear.
Classic. Good one.
And we just hung out there for the rest of the day because I expected these elk might come right back over in that evening, just like they did the night before. And so we waited there all day till dark, and nothing came out. Didn't see a single elk that evening. Or deer. Didn't see anything.
Nothing.
So we headed down that night and tell them about like how you were feeling.
Oh yeah, my knee got worse, and which is weird because I've never really had any problems with my knees, but on this specific day I was having like a really hard time walking. We were like 2.5 miles away from camp. Yeah. Which was fine, I was okay doing that, but my knee was so bad that it took us a really long time to get back to camp from when we left. And it just was like aching so bad. I was having a hard time walking, and I was really worried about whether or not I would make it back to camp, honestly. I was like on the verge of telling Logan to go get like our backpacking tent and come meet up with me because I was having a really hard time. And unfortunately, I also have like dietary problems, and so I hadn't had enough to eat that day, and my stomach was really giving me grief as well. So it's kind of just like a double whammy. And it was a really rough hike back to camp, but we made it, which was great. And I ate a little bit of food and conked out. Like I was out so fast. It was kind of just a rough night for me. And Logan was really nice. He took care of me and everything, but it was rough. So
it was tough. So I was like, all right, well, in the morning, if you're not feeling like super good to go, I'll just go. I still have a deer tag. Like I'll go hunt deer and try to find something.
And I think I had the night before already emotionally decided that I wasn't going early in the morning, but I fell asleep before I could tell him. So
Yeah. I knew some weather was coming in the next day, so I was kind of excited. It was going to be a good day. It was getting cold and rainy and snowy, and it was kind of sprinkling most of the night, raining in the tent. So I got up early, and I left.
I was sleeping.
She was sleeping. So I left to go just check a couple of spots for deer, and it was just raining as I was hiking in. And then it started snowing after I started to get light, which is awesome. But it was like wet snow. It was kind of like the sucky snow, but it was still cool because it was snowing. And I didn't see a single deer the whole morning, or an elk until like 11:30. And I worked up on top of this hill, and I found a herd of elk that was bedded like a mile and a half from where I was at, which is like a mile and a half from camp. So it was like 2.5, 3 miles from camp to where these elk were at. But I was like, ooh, like this might be perfect. If these elk stay bedded for a while, we could go down there and shoot one. And the big one was a nice 5x6, like stud bull, good tines, just like good bull. And they were bedded out in this open flat, like in this little basin. And it was like it was just like kind of perfect spot where they were at.
Yeah.
They could see all around them. So if nothing was going to get them unless it was a hunter it was a good shot. So so I bombed back to camp a mile and a half. Grabbed Ellie. I was like, hey, get your stuff ready.
Me. I was like warming up in the car, and then suddenly there was a person right here.
I was like, pack your stuff. We gotta go kill this elk.
He was like, I found an elk for you. Hurry up, pack your stuff. We're going. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm like hobbling to go get ready.
So she got her stuff ready.
Yeah.
We bombed down the trail. It was like 2.5 miles downhill to the elk.
That was nice.
The whole way to get there. It was nice.
Yeah.
And then there was a little knob that I knew if we got to the top of, we could see this elk, and it was going to be like 300 yards away. And so we worked up to that knob. I got up there first, and I found the elk, and I could see him just bedded. And Ellie was working her way up the hill still.
I was going a little slow because of my knee. So.
Yeah. So I told her, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go up to the top, and I'm going to peek over. But if you get up there and you don't see me, like, don't go over the top because they're going to be right there.
Well, I get up almost to the top, and I see him. I was like, oh, okay, like, it's not very much further to where he is. And so I'm, like, walking around, and I'm trying to look for him as he's, like, in the bushes, kind of. And I'm trying to look for him, and I'm just, like, do, walking, looking for him. And then I turn, and I look, and I see 8 elk. And I was like, ooh! And so I slowly backed up, and then I kind of just went, and I took my pack off, and I sat down. And Logan comes walking. He's like, what are you doing? I told you to not go over the ridge. And I was like, sorry.
I'm like, you're going to scare the elk away.
So I went down to my pack, grabbed it, and Logan met me, and then we...
Luckily, the elk did not
scare. They didn't spook.
We were like 300 yards away from that point.
Yeah.
Which is pretty close when she was on the skyline, but it was okay. They didn't see her.
Yeah.
So we worked kind of around. The tough part was like we were not on a very high point, so like laying down and shooting was not. Just wasn't possible. It was too flat and too many bushes to do that. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, let's just like working close, keep the bushes in our favor, and find a spot where we can get a shot. And as we're working in, we got to the spot where there was a couple of rocks that were high enough to lean on, and the bull stood up and started feeding, and the rest of the elk were kind of like starting to get up and feed around a little bit.
It's perfect timing.
So I was like, all right, like this is our time to like get a shot at this elk. We're about 250 yards away from him. So I set Ellie up on this rock, and the bull was like in some trees, so you couldn't see him. very good unless you really knew where he was at. But I was like, he's going to either go into a small clearing in these trees or he's going to work out either direction from these trees and we're going to get a shot at him. So Ellie's sitting on this rock waiting, and I just had the camera set up behind me, and I had like no time, and we were kind of in the wide open, so I couldn't set up a spotter or anything to film the elk through. Which it was okay. We still got it. We got it on video with the camera. But we're sitting there on the rock, and I'm waiting, and then the elk like turned around and walked the opposite direction, and he was just out in the open, kind of behind some like willowy branches, but you could still see him. And I was like, all right, Ellie, like, do you see him? He's right there. He's like just walked out to the left of those trees, and like you have a perfect shot right now.
Yeah, I actually didn't really see his antlers, but I knew that it was a bull based off of like his body and his neck and a little bit of his head, but like I couldn't see his antlers, so I just was like hoping, and exactly where Logan explained that he was is where I was looking, and so I was like, okay, this has to be him, and I confirmed it a couple of times.
Yeah, it was the only elk you could see in that little spot, so I knew that she was right on him.
Yeah, and it was interesting because the gun was on a slanted rock, and I had a rock like in my side as I'm trying to like angle myself properly so that way I could get a shot. It was not like
it was tough.
The easiest for me because I had never really done that before because everything previous to that with me shooting had just been like laying down.
Yeah.
Everything was perfect, But yeah, so I got all lined up and shot.
She shot him, and I'm watching through my binos, and like I could see that it hit him that elk good. But he ran out with all the cows, and they were like kind of running away. They didn't really know what happened, right? People know how it is, and they were looking back at us, and then that bull started just getting tipsy, and he just fell over right there.
Yeah,
he ran like 80 yards maybe, and I was like, "Sweet, we got him."
It was so exciting. I was in shock, actually. And I FaceTimed my dad, and he just was so excited for me. So
yeah, it was cool.
It was a cool moment to get to share with Logan, and also to call my dad and tell him that I was the first one in our family to shoot a big game animal. Yeah, it was really cool.
It was cool. So we packed our stuff up, ran over there to it, 300 yards away about, and yeah, he was dead. Really nice bull, solid like 5x6. If you want to see a picture of him and you have it, and go check out my Instagram, and it's on there. But the whole thing's on video, so I'll get a video made eventually. After I'm so backed up with everything right now.
Yeah.
But we got over there, got that elk. It was about 2:00.
Yeah.
And
I was so excited because it was 2:00. I was like, oh, we got time for 2 trips.
Yeah, we did not have time for 2 trips.
I was delusional.
We got the whole thing cut up and finished like probably by like 6. Yeah, so it was like getting dark. And we still had 2.5 miles to pack them out, all uphill.
Yep.
But it was on a trail, so it wasn't like terrible uphill.
Yeah, it had been raining the night before though, so the trail was like muddy and slippery. Yeah. So that was a bit unfortunate.
Yeah. So we stashed. I deboned everything, and we stashed both hindquarters in a tree. And I had both front quarters deboned, and Ellie had backstraps, tenderloins, heart, and the head. And I skinned out the head just to make it light enough.
Yeah.
So, and then right as we started hiking, it started like raining and snowing the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
How was that? Your first pack out?
Oh, it was interesting. At the beginning, Logan turned around and he goes, if you like can't do it and it's too heavy for you, like we can pause and we can hang up like the back straps and the tenderloins and stuff like in a tree and we can come back for them tomorrow. And I was like, my body was telling me to hang it up and my ego was telling me that I could do it. And so I was determined to do it because you know how it goes. But yeah, I had the trekking poles at this point, which thank goodness, because I was hobbling, and if I didn't have those trekking poles with my knee, I probably wouldn't have been able to make it back. So it was fun. Logan and I put in headphones and we ate candy every once in a while, and we were running off of he goes, we're running off of wrap and sugar, which is really true. Like, if I wouldn't have had that candy, I probably would have, like, oof, it would have been tough.
Yeah.
So, but no, it was really good, and I was really proud of myself just for making it to camp, you know? Like, it's funny to say because it's 2.5 mile hike, but it was a heavy hike, and it just was, I don't know, one of the harder things I'd done, and I was pretty proud of myself. So
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
So we made it back around 10 o'clock. Mm-hmm. So it took us like 2.5 hours, 3 hours to get out.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. So we made it. We slept in that next morning. It snowed a little bit that night.
Yep.
And we bombed down like late morning, grabbed the last load, and then packed it out. Was that second one easier?
Oh, yeah. It was definitely lighter, for sure.
Yeah. Mine was heavier. I think. I don't know, though.
Maybe.
It might have been about the same, but I didn't have like my spotting scope and everything.
It's true. Yeah.
Who knows? But
mine was lighter. It felt like, at least, so
yeah.
That was kind of nice, but
that's good. So yeah, we got Ellie's elk out, packed out, and got all the meat processed, and the skull's at the taxidermist now. So
yeah, pretty excited.
Cool. Her first elk. I was pretty proud of her for doing that. So
yeah.
Glad that it all worked out. We had a few more days if we needed to get it done, and we could have come back the next week and hunted more if we needed. So we were going to get one, but it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
So pretty cool. So kind of moving on to some other stuff. I am coming out with a new product this week, and this is called the Bino Visor. So essentially what it is, if you're watching on the video, you'll see this, but it goes on the end of your binos, and it protects when you're glassing early morning or late evening and the sun is shining right in your eyes. This gives you basically a sunshade on the end of your binos to block the sun from hitting the end of your binos when you're glassing early morning, late evening. We've all had this happen to us, like in our binos when you're glassing right into the sun in the early morning. It happens to me all the time, especially when I'm like a lot of the faces that I sit and glass for deer, the sun's gonna come up like right in my face, and I'm still trying to glass as that sun's coming up. Mm-hmm. So I kind of thought about this a couple years ago, and finally just made some. I have like 3 prototypes here that I was working on, and got down to something that was working good, and then kind of made a final prototype. So this is called the Bino Visor, and these are going to go on sale this week, and I'm going to have everything ready to go, and they're going to be getting made and shipped out. I got a friend who's making them for me, and so when you guys order them, they're going to be kind of made to order, so just expect maybe a week or 2 before we get those shipped out. We'll try to get them as fast as we can, but with everything, we're just starting this. I've never done this before, so we're kind of getting like all the shipping figured out and all of the product and everything figured out, which so far it's working good. So we are just getting everything rolling. But one of the cool features about this is that it is super light and packable. So when it's not on your binos, it just folds up into a flat piece. So you can slide this in your bino harness right behind your binos or in a separate pouch, wherever you want to store it. But I kind of designed it with that in mind, to be super small and fold up very flat so that it can just store in your binos. So you don't even notice that it's there. But then when you need it, you can just pull it out and throw it on. I've even used this a little bit on my spotting scope when I'm glassing with my spotting scope in the sun. and it helps tremendously with that as well. It's not going to fit kind of your bigger spotters like your 85s or 95s, but anything smaller than that, like 70, 65, the 60 spotters, like it's going to fit perfectly. The other thing is it's designed to fit pretty much any bino out there. I haven't tested it on like a ton of binos because I just don't have access to a ton, but all the binos that I have, so like the SIG binos, it fits the SIG stabilized. It also fits just like regular 10x42s. It'll fit anything. It's got a big range of usability between like any binos or even some, like I said, some spotting scopes. It could even be used on the end of a rifle scope if you're trying to shoot into the sun. I've had that issue before as well. I haven't really used it for that yet, but it's definitely an application that could be used for as well. The plastic inside of it that kind of holds its rigidity is a little bit malleable, so it'll wrap around like a spotting scope or your binos depending on the shape of them, and it's pretty sweet. So I'm really excited for it. So watch out for these on the website. They're going to be coming live, I think, sometime later at the later end of this week, as this podcast is coming out, which is it's mid-October right now, or almost the end of October.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about these, and I'll probably be doing maybe some more stuff on the website as well. I've thought about selling some hats. Maybe just making some other things. I've got maybe a couple other product ideas to work on in the next few months moving forward. But this is kind of a big step for me and for us and for the brand as a whole, just to kind of come up with something and sell it. And this is something I've never seen before in the market. There's nothing like it. So I'm really excited to get it going and get this in some people's hands and see how it works. And I'm sure we'll come out with another version after we come up with some critiques and stuff over the next year or two. But this is the product right here. This is the deal. So if you want to support, you can go to creativehuntermedia.com. When they come on sale, you can buy them there. We'll get them made and shipped out to you. They're going to come in 3 colors. So there is black, green, and tan. So any of these 3 colors you can order, and we will make them and ship them out to you. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have on these right now, but pretty exciting, pretty cool stuff with these coming out soon. So watch for those, and you can watch kind of on social media, and I'll post some stuff about those dropping here soon, and you'll have to grab yourself one. I think I'm going to sell them for $40 a piece to cover all of the material costs and costs for making them and everything, and then you guys can just have them shipped right to you. So thanks to you guys for watching this episode. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys enjoyed Ellie's story on her first elk. We're going to get that film worked on over the next few months, and kind of as I get everything finished up, we'll start posting stuff. I think kind of around like December, January timeframe, stuff will start coming out from this season. I'm doing like everything on my own, so like filming my own stuff. I've got a couple of the films I've done this year. I've had film guys on it with me, but I'm doing all the editing. So right now it's like impossible to hunt and edit everything at the same time. So
priorities.
Yeah, and I have school. There's school too, and we're working on like products. So it's like there's a lot going on, but it's really exciting, and so I'm gonna get working on the editing of everything, kind of after the season's over. But thanks you guys for watching. If you've missed any of the last episodes, go check them out. There's good stuff in all of those episodes, especially with the ones with guests on them. And we will see you guys next week.